The lead story this afternoon, Parliament's Joint Constitutional Review Committee will resume its public hearings across the country on Tuesday. The committee is mandated to determine whether a review of Section 25 of the Constitution is necessary to make it possible for the state to expropriate land without compensation and to propose constitutional amendments where necessary. For more on the story, we are now joined on the line by the Joint Constitutional Review Committee chairperson, Mr. Vincent Smith. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Smith. We thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Essentially, can you tell us a bit more about Tuesday's hearings and where are they likely to be taking place?
Good afternoon, Shante, and good afternoon to your listeners. On Tuesday or next week, we move to Northwest Province for hearings. On Tuesday specifically, we are in Taung. That hearing starts at 11 o'clock as all other hearings. The process is more or less the same. We'll allow everybody to speak in a language that they're comfortable with. We will not participate. And then on the next day, from Taung, we move to Mafikeng on the 18th. And from Mafikeng on the 19th, we would be at the Rustenburg Civic Center.
Mr. Smith, how would you describe the journey so far? We've seen a lot of interest, we've seen a lot of robust talk and debate at the hearings. Did the committee expect this type of response from the public?
To be honest with you, Shante, no, we didn't. We planned for 300 to 350 participants per event. But for over the past 2 weeks that we were in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga, we had more than 1,000 people per event, so we clearly underestimated the interest from South Africans in participating in this discussion.
Now, in terms of the interest that we have now seen and definitely underestimating those numbers, can we get some sort of a timeline on how we're expecting the hearings to last?
Well, we've been given a deadline for the 28th of September by Parliament, and we intend to meet that deadline. We would finish our public hearings around about the 4th of August. We then go back to Cape Town and then consider the written submissions that we had received before we embarked on this exercise. And towards the end of August, the beginning of September, the committee will then deliberate on all the inputs and make a recommendation that must reach Parliament by the 28th of September.
Yeah. Let's talk now about the contentious Ingonyama Trust issue. There's also been a lot of debate around the trust. We've also heard word from President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that that land essentially is not going to be touched. And your committee, in fact, has also weighed in on the issue. Currently, what is the stance on the Ingonyama Trust? Ingonyama Trust, apologies.
Let me start by saying that our committee, or the committee that I serve on, has one exercise to complete, and that exercise is whether the Constitution should be amended to allow for expropriation without compensation. And if it should be amended, how should it be amended? And if not, why not? So the detail as to the actual management of any property, whether it's communal property, whether it's private property, that's an exercise that's beyond the purview of the committee that I chair. Once we've agreed that the Constitution must be changed or agreed that it mustn't be changed, we then hand that over to Parliament. Parliament will then hand it to a relevant committee who will then go and effect the changes of the Constitution and or legislative amendments or legislation that would then regulate which property gets expropriated, under what conditions, and how is it managed. So our committee is not really involved in the management of Ingonyama Trust or any other communal land, other than to say that all land, as far as we're concerned, is land that's open for discussion in terms of should the Constitution be amended to allow for that land to be expropriated without compensation.
Yeah. And just as an overview, how would you describe the way that the public hearings have taken place since the beginning, as well as the contributions that have been made by the members of the public?
Well, the contributions have been very insightful and very well thought out. The people who are current landowners are very anxious that expropriation without compensation could lead to all sorts of instability in the market. it could lead to people losing their land and food security being affected. And on the other side of the coin, people who are of the view that there should be expropriation without compensation are arguing that the land is desperately required, not just for agricultural purposes, but also for residential and as well as for civil and social. I mean, we have people saying, but we don't know where to bury our people because we don't have property. So it's for a whole host of reasons that people feel that land should be expropriated. And on the other side, there's a whole grouping that says expropriation could create all sorts of problems. And we'd have to weigh both arguments up and take a decision.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. That was a Joint Constitutional Review Committee Chairperson, Mr. Vincent Smith, talking to us about the public hearings which seek to determine whether a review of Section 25 of the Constitution is necessary to actually make it possible for the state to expropriate land without compensation. Also touching on elements there of the Ingonyama Trust, as well as describing the robustness that has been taking place within those debates and public hearings from members of the public. Of course, the hearings are now set to resume this week come Tuesday. They will be starting off in the northwest.